You've learned the basics. Now it's time to master the more advanced stuff. Hey there, I'm John. This is Two Brothers RC, and this is your next step in your RC pilot evolution. You've learned by now how to land and take off and handle the pattern in our How to Learn EDF Jets for Beginners video. Now it's time to learn aerobatics, advanced landings, stall recovery, what to do if things go wrong, and more. A channel supporter who didn't want to be named graciously sent in this brand new E-flite Viper 90mm, also the channel logo, to us to demo for you. It's been a long time since we've had a Viper 90, so thank you so much for making it possible. You know who you are, and we really appreciate your support. Before we proceed and cover how to fly more advanced maneuvering, let's cover the basics of setup on this Viper 90mm so that you can match what I've been doing. Here's the gyro gains that you should be using to match what you see on screen. I'm flying on a throttle-based gain setup. Click the card in the top right if you don't know what throttle-based gains are, or hit the NX Radio tutorial in the description below to find out more about throttle-based gains and how they'll step your flying up to the next level. But the gains aren't the only change to this Viper. I also adjusted the control horn positions for maximum throw, along with using a Spectrum 8360T receiver to enable the crow mix that lets this bird fly high alpha, a technique that I developed in late 2021. Make sure that you change your control horns and servo arm linkages on the ailerons to match what you see on screen. Then match the rudder to what you see now for max throw, and set the elevator linkages to the same setup that you see here on screen too. By this point, you've probably seen the Learn to Fly EDF Jets for Beginners video that we published recently on the channel. If not, click the card at the top right and go check it out for me, or click below in the description whenever you get around to it. Takeoff and landing are both covered there, and they'll be covered here too. The Viper 90 is a completely different beast than the Viper 70, and this is an intermediate to advanced level tutorial on how to fly jets, so we need to cover the techniques that are specific to the Viper 90, which fortunately also applies to other large jets too. Taking off is just like the Viper 70 tutorial, with, unfortunately, the additional anxiety of stalling much easier on rotation if you yank the jet into the sky. If you're flying on pavement, and I highly recommend that you do this, rotation is simple. Half throttle is all you need to get up into the air with a gentle pull of the elevator stick. Pay attention to my hands as I control the jet and you'll see just how little pressure is needed to do anything with it. This changes up a bit if you're flying on grass. You need better batteries to take off from grass reliably because the grass will resist the forward movement of the jet, requiring more thrust to get off the ground. So if you're gonna fly on grass, I highly suggest flying with SMC or CNHL batteries to rotate successfully. Additionally, flying from grass sometimes requires yanking the damn plane into the sky to get it off of the ground. Our original Viper was flown off grass quite a bit and it was always hit or miss, because if you yank it into the air, you seriously risk stalling and crashing it. So try and fly off smoother grass if you can, use better batteries, or both. Let's recap before moving on to landing. Take off smoothly. This is practice made perfect. Don't just smash the throttle to full and hope for the best. Good takeoffs come from good technique, and good technique comes from constant practice. Keep the airplane tracking straight down the runway. Pull gently on the elevator to rotate and fly. That's all there is to it. If you struggle with clean takeoffs, watch this segment over and over and you'll see exactly what to do. So, takeoff is the second most critical phase of flight. It's not hard, but it's easy to mess up if you're not careful. Landing, however, is the most critical phase of flying. This is where most pilots crash their airplane, whether it's full or model scale. Yes, people crash when performing aerobatics, but they most often crash while maneuvering to land because you're flying at low air speeds and you usually have flaps dropped. Flaps and low airspeed are both vital ingredients to crashing an airplane. This is because flaps reduce the angle of attack at which your aircraft stalls, meaning that flaps require flying with a flatter angle of attack. Keeping the nose lower on approach is very important. You use the flaps to reduce the speed at which you approach the runway. Without flaps, you can hold the nose up higher, but eventually that does stall too when you hit the wing's critical angle of attack. You should reference the Beginner to Jets video linked earlier for the pattern work that you need to establish here to fly well. It'll give you the basics you need to know to fly successfully. But if you want to just jump into this video instead, that's okay too, because you can see my stick movements on screen, and that's the important part to emulate. To begin, establish the final approach with your flaps dropped, and be careful while maneuvering to the runway. Avoid pulling the stick too hard. Lots of small corrections are totally okay, especially if it's windy, so long as the jet is established with enough airspeed to keep it flying toward the ground, stabilized. As you approach the ground, pull the elevator stick right before touchdown to bleed off the remaining airspeed and settle down on the main wheels. Then, either finish the landing or take off and try again. Some pitfalls to watch out for would be if you're coming in too fast, you're going to float and climb briefly when you attempt to flare. If you keep holding the elevator after climbing, you'll break airflow over the wing and it will stall into the ground. Proper technique, that is to say, learning the airspeed at which you should flare the Viper, comes with time. If you see the jet climb, throttle up and go around. If it looks bad, it is bad. It never hurts to try again. One additional technique you can do with most sport jets is forward slipping, by using a lot of rudder and pushing the jet toward the ground. For example, if you use right rudder to slip, roll the left wing toward the ground and keep pushing the nose toward the runway with little or no thrust. This is a great way to manage airspeed on the approach and drop a lot of altitude without gaining airspeed. But not every jet can do this. Most sport jets can, but most twin-tail fighter jets will pop out of a slip and crash. Be careful using this technique with twin tails. Otherwise, it becomes a totally normal landing after you let off the rudder and level out the wings. Now that we've had that refresher on takeoffs and landings, let's cover how to maneuver to avoid stalling. If my voice sounds a little off right now, it's because I unfortunately picked up a cold in the middle of recording this video, so I'm gonna power through and hope my voice holds. The best way to maneuver any jet is to carve big lines in the sky with just enough elevator pressure to force the jet to maneuver, but without yanking it so hard that it begins to stall. There's a fine line to walk here. Contrary to the opinions of newer pilots, physics is a thing, and you can't turn an airplane on a dime without stalling it. Gentle stick pressure while banking and yanking will let the plane do most of the work. Notice how little pressure I use while maneuvering it. It's because anything more risks stalling the jet. The faster you go, the more control authority you have. And if you're flying balanced just in front of the main wheels like I am, it's not very hard to stall the jet while you're maneuvering it. Big, graceful maneuvers tend to work very well with most jets, so take advantage of that and you won't stall while maneuvering. Take the time to learn this. It's a very important skill to master. This is all made easier by using the stick tension and stick length adjustments mentioned in the NX radio tutorial posted recently, so check that out too, and make sure to use plenty of expo. 50% is what I recommend. I know a lot of people care about speed, and I do too, to a certain extent, but I personally don't care to measure speed. What I care about is how well an airplane flies when I tell it to maneuver, not whether a GPS or a radar gun has numbers appearing on the screen. Comparing numbers, to me, is a pointless measuring contest. But speed is important, because an airplane becomes touchier to control the faster it flies, just like a car driving on a highway. So I did spend quite a bit of time flying around at high speed to show you just how little stick input you need to maneuver, because anything more can lead to a stall and a crash. Watch my hands as I throw this jet around and maneuver it in a tight corridor that requires avoiding both the flight line and the trees. The small inputs I'm giving the jet are gently directing it where I want it to go. It naturally obeys because I'm being light on the stick inputs. Harder inputs would definitely stall. This takes a lot of practice to consistently pull off without stalling. If you like flying high speed, this section should help illustrate the kind of control you need to master. With all of the basics of taking off, landing, and maneuvering covered, let's start by focusing on doing some aerobatics. I'm going to assume that you know how to do rolls and loops already. These are the most basic types of aerobatics and require little more than good judgment to pull off successfully. So, we'll focus on intermediate and advanced aerobatics, progressively working up to more difficult maneuvers until we get to the hardest thing you can do with the Viper 90. Starting with the point roll, this is pretty simple. All you need to do is roll 4 times at each cardinal point, making a 90-degree roll, stopping, making another 90-degree roll, stopping again, rolling, and so forth. Point rolls are fun to do, easy to master, and they help build a foundation to learn other aerobatics. Another variation of the point roll is the slow point roll. While rolling, stop at random points and add just enough rudder or elevator to maintain altitude, then continue rolling until you stop at another point. This is a very graceful maneuver and is one of my favorites to perform. Yet another variation of the point roll is performing a half loop and finishing the half loop with a half point roll. If you watch TBRC often, you'll see this maneuver in our review vids performed by many different airframes. Just like regular point rolls, this is a very easy maneuver to perform once you grasp the basics. To increase the difficulty a bit, you can try rapid rolling with elevator input. As you roll inverted, add inverted elevator. As you roll upright, add upright elevator. Get into a rhythm and you won't lose any altitude. This is also a great thing to practice to learn how to perform rolling circles, like what you're seeing here. This maneuver is a bit trickier, but also really impressive to watch too. The same movements for rapid roll work here, except that you're intentionally yanking the elevator at the right time to fly in a circle as you continually roll the jet. Knife edge is another great intermediate maneuver that you can perform. The Viper 90 is a magnificent platform for knife edges because it has almost no coupling when performing the move. Coupling meaning that it doesn't have a tendency to roll or pitch while flying the maneuver. It tracks a straight line with rudder input. This can safely be performed at any altitude. All you need is thrust and rudder input along with some common sense, like not flying it into a tree. Let's increase the difficulty now and start learning some tumbling. The Viper does fantastic tumbles, and you can make other airplanes do them too with the same stick inputs. It just depends on the jet. Generally though, a forward tumble is performed by using moderate amounts of thrust, left rudder, left aileron, and moderate down elevator to cause the airplane to begin tumbling as it flies forward. It looks out of control, but it's not. All of the stick inputs on display are forcing it into this maneuver, and it pops right out when you center the sticks. Speaking of pops, the Viper 90 also does pop tops too. A pop top is basically an upward flat spin. You begin by flying vertical, then sweep both sticks in a clockwise rotation simultaneously. It requires full rudder as you sweep the right stick to add full down elevator, and full right aileron to flatten the spin out. I'm pretty sure that most people don't think jets can do this, but a lot of them can if they're set up to perform, and the Viper is no exception. The setup that I'm using is literally no different than the gains and throws that I mentioned earlier, flying on stock servos. So that means if I can do this, you can too. Alright, now let's move on to the most advanced maneuvers you can perform with this jet. While not every jet can perform a rolling Harrier, the Viper 90 can. And while most Vipers can't perform a high alpha pass, mine can, and by extension, yours can too, with the setup file on our Discord server via discord.gg/2brosrc. Starting with the Rolling Harrier, the stick inputs are identical to how you would perform it with a 3D plane. It's a dance with both sticks. As you roll left, you add rudder and elevator to keep the jet at the same 45-degree attitude and sweep the sticks back and forth while adding throttle with each rudder input. The jet is light, it has huge control surfaces, and it has a ton of thrust on the stock setup, so you can easily do this maneuver if you're able to do it with a 3D plane. Next up is high alpha. I was told back in 2021 that this wouldn't be possible. That annoyed me enough to find a way to do it, because one of my character flaws is that I will do anything to spite someone who doubts me, and that led to me discovering the high alpha mix you see on screen right now. With the control throws shown in the beginning of the vid, and the battery slammed fully aft so the jet balances nearly over the main wheels, you have the center of gravity and control authority needed to perform this pass, along with the mix to force it to do it. The mix keeps the jet stable and forces it to stall at the wing root instead of at the wingtip, allowing you to fly fully on thrust while pegging the elevator with the mix active. To enter the maneuver, I like to yank the elevator to stall the jet and add throttle to force it to begin flying high alpha. To steer, you just use rudder and tell it where to go. To exit the maneuver, throttle to full and slowly let off the elevator pressure. You'll probably drop a wing on the recovery, but it's momentary and easy to get out of. High alpha with a Viper is, to me, the pinnacle of flying this jet. And fortunately, this mix forces the Viper to behave like any other jet that can perform high alpha. All you should ever have to do to fly this maneuver is pull the elevator stick if the jet is capable of doing it. Basically, any Delta wing can do it easily, and some other jets can too if you're skilled enough. That basically covers how to fly jets. From beginner aerobatics to intermediate and advanced techniques, you can combine all of these maneuvers together to string an impressive demo routine at your club and amaze your friends, or just have fun for the sake of personal improvement. That's why I fly airplanes, to be better than I was yesterday. And if you're like me, hopefully this video helped. I'm still getting over this cold and my throat hurts, but huge thanks goes out to our channel members on 2brosrc.com/supporters. And a very special thanks goes out to our mega fans, Sarasota RC Squadron, Michael Smith, JR Man, Todd, and N411X, along with our Ultra fan, TBRC fan. You guys kick so much ass. Coming up next week will be the Freewing A10 64mm version 3. It's brand new, it's awesome, and unlike another large YouTube channel, I didn't buy it just to say it sucks. See you guys next week.